Welcome back to Baseball Books and Banter with me, your host, Nicole Aslin. We're doing a YouTube again, so I hope I'm looking at the camera. Otherwise, I'm a millennial and I don't know how to do that. You're also getting me with no makeup today because, well, I've been sick all week. I did a whole bunch of stuff with my dad last week. He helped deliver the Patriot State training ship to Mass Maritime, so I went with him to that, and I think I shook too many hands because he also got a cold, and then I got a cold. So this week, today I feel marginally better. I'm awake. I slept till 8:30. That's always a plus, which is obviously sleeping late for me. But I didn't feel like putting makeup on, so you getting me all natural, baby. Today's interview is with Judy Penz Sheluk, who is pretty cool. She is a guppy, Sisters in Crime guppy. She responded to my siren call for people, and she has a lot of experience with indie publishing, hybrid publishing, traditional publishing, and she has her own press, which is really cool. So it was really interesting to hear about that. One of her newest projects is Finding Your Path to Publication, which kind of explains all of those different ways you can get your books into the world. I know when I was a baby author, it would have been nice to have, because I knew nothing about small presses, about hybrid, about, trying to get an agent and querying. And I think it's really important for people to understand there's not just one path to getting your books into the world, but multiple paths. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll jump right in with things I'm obsessed with because it's been a week and I've probably been obsessed with more stuff. My cozy season sweater from Lane Bryant. I'm very excited about that because I'm a cozy mystery author and I just wanted something that says cozy. So if you make anything that sells cozy, reach out to me. I'll probably buy it. The other thing on TikTok, there's a couple of things on TikTok I'm obsessed with, and mainly it's because I've been sick, so I've been scrolling a lot. But the first is the Shop Cats TikTok. It's this New Yorker who goes into all these bodegas and sees all these bodega cats and tells them they're beautiful and tries to get them to hunt, and then talking to their owners, the shop owners, who just love their cat children who run the show. They also interviewed some of my favorite shop cats, Jeremy and Oliver. Well, Jeremy's the person. No, Jeremy's the cat. Oliver's the person. And Jeremy hates Oliver, but Jeremy's the boss. So it's really cute. So check out Shop Cats on TikTok if you can. The other thing is, and I just posted this TikTok and I talk about it in the beginning of the podcast, as a geriatric millennial, TikTok is hard and I'm not good at it, but I did SNL did a skit this weekend set to the tune of Espresso at a wedding, and there's a part where the guy comes in and he says, "Hey man, it's me," so I finally did a TikTok to that sound about how I sound when I talk about my authors. So those are kind of just some of the things I'm obsessed. The other thing I think I wrote in my notes that I don't have in front of me, because why would I be prepared for my own podcast, is right now the Old Colony Library Network here in Massachusetts is doing a library crawl until November 2nd, and you can get a chance to win some gift cards and mugs. Basically, you just visit the library, ask for a stamp, and they stamp it, and some libraries have fun stuff. So, for example, the Whitman Public Library, they are giving out scratch and sniff chocolate chip bookmarks, and I realized it's because, for those that know, Toll House Cookies, the chocolate chip cookie Toll House, was founded in Whitman, so they leaned into the whole thing. The Abington Library is doing scratch tickets where you can win bookmarks, which I did. I didn't put up on my bookmark garland yet, but it's going to go up there. And what else? The Weymouth Library had buttons. Was that the Weymouth Library? No, Thayer Library had buttons and word searches. So yeah, just make sure you go to your library. They do fun stuff like this all the time. And because I also am a glutton for punishment, I picked up some new historical mysteries to read. So those are now in my pile out there. Sports-wise, for me, it's kind of a dead time. The Bruins just started, but they've been on the West Coast, so I haven't been able to stay up till 10 o'clock to watch them. Tonight they're on at 9, so there's a possibility I'll at least be able to listen to the beginning of the game, but they've been doing okay, so I'm just going to keep riding the wave with that. The Celtics start Tuesday night, which is super exciting. We're going to see the banners raised, rings given out because, oh, I don't know if you heard, we're the champions. Very excited about that. The Red Sox have done nothing because it's the off season. And right now the Yankees are 1 win away from the World Series, whatever. Judy and I can commiserate because she's a Blue Jays fan. So at the bottom of the AL East is us, so we can communicate that way. But otherwise, it's kind of a dead time. I'm going to get ready here. My dad and my brother at the Navy football game in Annapolis, so I'll watch that because they are finally ranked, and they're also ranked against Army, which for those that know, Army Navy is a big deal in December, and my aunt will be there, my brother, my dad, in DC this year, and or Baltimore, DC at FedEx Field. And if they're both ranked and both undefeated, that's going to be a pretty kick butt game. Last year was not a kick butt game. It was a very cold, very sloppy played game. So I'm glad this year they're at least comparable in talent and coaching. So we'll see what happens. So that's kind of what's going on here. I'll come back to you after the interview with Judy so you can hear a little bit more about what I'm reading, and enjoy. Well, welcome to Baseball Books and Banter on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Oh my God. I was just telling Judy, I just did a TikTok, and for those that know, it takes a lot of brain power for me, apparently. But welcome Judy Penz Sheluk, who is a fellow guppy and also sisters in crime from another mister, from the Great White North, as I call it, or America's Hat, Canada. Yeah, welcome. Sorry, I'm like, woof, I'm here. I was just reading through your about page on your website, and I'm just like fascinated by some of the stuff you've done recently with all your writing. So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Canadian. I was born and raised in Toronto. I now live in Northern Ontario, and in a town called Sault Ste. Marie. It's a border town between Canada and the U.S. So the U.S. side is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Okay.
So people that are familiar with that would know. Literally, I live 5 minutes from the bridge to the United States. So when I'm walking my dog in the park, and there's the St. Mary's River, and we sit on a bench, we're actually looking at the U.S. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. You're in
it's sort of cool, right? Because they're looking at us, they're looking at Canada, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very close relationship. Back and forth, people work in, one country and live in another, and that's this very close relationship. I left my day job in the corporate world of finance in 2003 and to become a freelance journalist. And that sort of happened because my job was being downsized and I was really tired of the corporate world, and I had a little bit of a severance package, and I thought, well, let me try my hand at this and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back to the corporate world, but I didn't have to. I was lucky because 2003 print media was still really thriving, not so much today. So I was able to very quickly develop a good reputation as a journalist and then as a magazine editor. And then in, I guess, 2012, I went to a writing conference, mystery writers conference, and I went as a fan because I primarily read mystery. And I left determined to become an author. How hard could it be, right? So I came home, and I actually had a window. Like when you're freelancing, it's not like a regular job where you get vacation and all that. If you're not working, you're not getting paid, right? So I was always like on my next assignment, and I was faced with about 3 weeks off because it was like sort of the Christmas break. And I don't know about where you are, but up here, the world shuts down over Christmas break. Like we were big on not doing anything for 2 or 3 weeks. That could be partly because weather or whatever. But anyway, so I just thought, okay, I'm going to write every day and see what happens. And at the end of 3 weeks, I certainly didn't have a book written, but I had enough written that I thought, yeah, I can do this. And so I just made time every day to write. And I've kept that ritual up ever since. So some days all I have is 15 minutes, and I'll put that 15 minutes in. And some days I'll have a full day. And so then I'll work the full day. And sometimes I get as much done in 15 minutes as a full day.
It depends on when the muse hits, right? Like,
It really depends on your mood and all that.
yeah.
So yeah, so my first book was published in 2015 by Barking Ring Press. They're no longer in operation, but they were an excellent press. Mystery Writer of America approved. They treated their authors really well, but it was a small press and personal things, you know, they had to close, but they were excellent. And I learned so much from them, and that I would never have learned from, I think, a lot of places. And the owner was Sherry Gormley, and she was wonderful. And when she did close down, she treated everybody with such decency.
Yeah.
So that was great. And then, so that was one series. And then I had sort of another series that I'd started, and I had a different publisher. They also went under. So it's like,
It's not
me.
No, it's not you.
And so after, when the second one closed, and also a very reputable publisher, they were based in British Columbia, Canada, I thought, unless I could get like a big 5 deal,
Right.
Any small press is just going to be the same situation. Not today, maybe in 3 years or 4 years, but I'm going to have to keep facing this.
Right.
And I just thought, you know what? I think I can do it myself, and I can probably do it. I learned a lot from both of those.
Sure.
The Imagine, which was in Kelowna, that owner was really amazing at marketing. Cheryl Turner, she was great at marketing. So I learned a lot from her as far as marketing went. And then from Sherry, I learned a lot about book formatting and pacing and all of that. So I thought, you know what, I can do this myself. And then fortunately, their main editor at Barking Ring, she freelanced as well. And so I said to her, would you edit my books? And we've been working together ever since.
Oh, that's
so it's been great, you know, because you can't, you know, even though I am an editor, you cannot edit your own work. You can't. People think they can, but no, you can't.
You can do a basic, but yeah, you're gonna still miss because you've lived with it. Because you probably read it 3 times before you
hundreds of times.
Yeah. And you're like, no, this sounds perfect. And then the editor comes back and is like, that doesn't sound like a sentence. And you're like, oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm writing it. I've read it through much.
Like Stephen King would say, kill your darlings.
Yeah,
and it's true. You know, if you've spent, you know, hours on a paragraph or a page, it's really hard to sort of see that it doesn't really fit anymore. Right. And so it takes somebody else to say, hey, that just doesn't belong. You have to, it has to get cut. And that's hard, right? And so I think, you know, the great thing is that T. Locke, who's my editor, she's really good about, you know, giving it tips and stuff. I mean, she certainly doesn't rewrite, but she'll say, you know, have you considered this? Like, no, but that's pretty good. And then I'll kind of run with that. So she's sort of almost like more of a developmental editor to me, rather than the final copy, check every little thing, right? Which she ends up doing as well. So it's great. And now since then, she's also a writer. I've worked on her stuff. So we sort of developed this relationship where now I don't pay her and she doesn't pay me, and we just do each other's editing.
Yeah. Hey.
So it's worked out amazing for me, and hopefully it's worked out for her. You'd have to tell her. And then I have the name of your book as well.
The press is Superior Shores Press, which it didn't take until just now for me to realize that's Lake Superior where you're off of.
And that's right, Lake Superior.
See, I'm smart sometimes. Sometimes it clicks. So that's really cool. I like that. It sounds whimsical and like a place I want to go. So that's really cool. So that's kind of the genesis of how that happened. You just said, you know, it's going to keep happening because it is a business that always changes.
It is.
And it is a labor of love for a lot of people. And sometimes that love goes away or life gets in the way. And, you know, it's hard to keep up with everything. So you said, you know what? I'm going to do it myself with
That's
help,
right.
not completely yourself. Cause it's very hard to do it by yourself. I'm sure. Like,
Yeah, no, like, I mean, the writing I do myself,
yeah,
the formatting I do
sure.
myself. I hire a cover artist because
Yep.
I'm creative, but I'm by no means an artist.
Right.
And his name is Hunter Martin. He's amazing. And then I have the editor, and I always have beta readers that, that I trust, that will, say, this really isn't working or whatever. So, I think to be successful, and my books have done well, and they are well rated, like generally 4.2 to
Right.
plus. I think that to do that, you have to be open to criticism. You absolutely do. And you can't take it personally. It's not personal. And that's what I try to tell people, like when I have anthologies, and I, get a lot of submissions, and I can only accept
Sure.
maybe 20% of what I receive. And so when I do send that rejection, I try to make it kind, because I've been on that side of the
Right.
fence and I
Right.
know how much it stings. Um, I try to offer some little tidbit of advice or whatever, but I always make a point of saying it's not personal. And just because I didn't like it, or I didn't think it was going to work for this particular anthology, doesn't mean it isn't good, right? We have such different reading
Yep.
tastes. I mean, like I've recommended books to people that I thought were great, and they were like,
Yeah.
and then they recommended stuff to me, and I read it and go,
Yeah.
so yeah,
100%.
because we have different tastes, and sometimes it's our mood or whatever. So I always say to people when they're starting out, especially, and they're writing, like, and in the early days, you do get more rejections because you're just not really often ready, or you send your
Right.
stuff out before it's actually ready. Um, don't give up on the dream. Just accept that it might take a bit longer, or you might have to still put in a little bit more work, and that's okay, right?
And you have to find the fit. Like sometimes it's just not a fit. And
That's right.
that's what happened with my books. It's, I got a lot of rejections from agents, and a majority of them were great. Some of them felt a little personal, like I hate baseball. And I'm like, well, that feels like you're just yelling at me.
Yeah.
But when I finally found my publisher, it's because she happened to love baseball and love the Red Sox. So like we kind of just, it was serendipitous. And I don't think we would have found each other, you know, in a different world. I found her through Twitter at the time, so it was kind of one of those things. But yeah, I think people need to realize that what you said, that we all have different tastes. I always tell people there's a reader out there. If you like it, there's going to be somebody else who wants to read
That's
it.
right.
You just have to find them, and sometimes it takes longer than, it's not an overnight thing. You're not going to be the Iron Flame. You're not going to be a Court of Thorn and Roses. Like, it's going to
No.
take a little bit more time sometimes, but it could happen, and it might happen.
Well, and that's the thing I say to people is, don't write the book that's trending now. Like, you think you're going to hop on that train, whatever that train happens to be. One time it was
Yep.
vampires, and then there's
Now
the
it's
whole Harry
dragons.
Potter thing. Everybody went into the mist, that sort of fantasy thing. But I say, like, write the book you want to read.
Yep.
Because if you write the book you want to read, somebody else is going to want to read it.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, you're writing something that means something to you, like
And
that is you,
right.
that's
And
a part
especially
of
if
you.
you're going to write a series,
Yeah.
want something that you're going to want to keep writing. You don't want to write something and go, oh, I
Yeah.
hated
You
that.
want to be able to get up and be excited. You want to learn about the characters,
Yeah.
like, I've had people ask me about, what my next book is about, and I'll sort of start telling them. I'll go, well, you sound like those people are real to you. Well, they are
They are.
real
Their
to
voices
me.
in your head.
They live
100%.
inside of me, all these different people.
In a good way, not in a crazy way,
We're
in
not
a
crazy,
normal way.
but they do. They live
Yeah.
inside of you, and so they'll tell you, and like innately, like if you have like, I don't really believe in writer's block. I believe that if you are blocked, which does happen, it's your subconscious saying you're doing something wrong.
Right.
Like you've gone the wrong way. Back it up to where you weren't blocked. And now look at that and think, okay, instead of going in that direction, what other direction can I go to? Because I do think it is your mind saying, hey, like, I'm going to save you some trouble
Right.
here.
Don't go down this road because
Don't go down
you're
that
gonna hit
road
a
because
dead
you could end
end.
up in a dead end, and then what? So, like, just listen instead
Yeah.
of going, oh, like, I'm blocked and I can't think of anything.
I quit.
Listen to that inner voice. It's your inner voice telling you, right? I really believe that.
Yeah, that's a great way to think. I've never thought of it that way, but that makes sense because yeah, I've been blocked and you've tried, well, not blocked, but at a stymie point, and
Yeah.
you keep trying to push and you
And
just
it
get
doesn't work.
more blocked. Like you're starting to lose your characters, your story, your
Yeah.
plot is now gone. So yeah, I like that idea of, it's your brain, because our brains are dumb, that
Yeah.
they could make us happy and tell us what to do, but they don't. It doesn't. So you have to kind of go into your brain and go, okay, so why are you doing that to me?
Yeah.
And they go, oh yeah, you just have to back up like 2 chapters and then you're fine. You'll find
Yeah.
it. And it's
You'll
like,
find
you
it.
told me that before. No,
Yeah.
stupid brain.
It's true. It's true. So anyway, that's the way I approach it. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the way everybody should, but for me, it works. Something that I'm really proud of is that in 2023, I faced some health challenges. And so I didn't have in my head a lot of creativity.
Sure.
So I thought, well, I can't, but I'm also not the sort of person that sits around and feels sorry for myself and goes, woe is me. Now I'm just going to sit here and knit. So wait, because I don't even know how to knit.
So don't sit in it. Just get one long
So
thing.
I thought, what about, one thing I know from being on the board of directors with Crime Writers of Canada, and I was chair, I met a lot of authors and a lot of aspiring authors. And there's a lot of aspiring authors that have a rather rosy picture of the world of publishing. And it's, yeah, there are the Stephen Kings of the world and the Linwood Barclays that just make
Oh, sure.
buttloads of money,
Yeah.
but most people don't. And so you have to kind of manage your expectations. So I thought, but I also found in talking to people that they would have written a book. I remember one woman came to a presentation, she'd written 7 books and never sent them anywhere.
Oh my
7
God.
books. And I said to her, like, why aren't you sending them out? She said, I don't know what to do with them. So I thought, okay, there's a niche there. So I did the Finding Your Path for publication, which covers the 5 paths, like the traditional, the big 5, the
I
self-publishing.
wrote that down because I wanted to talk to you about that. So perfect.
The hybrid assisted and social, which is basically blogging and that type of thing. And that went really well. Just won an award, actually.
Oh, congratulations.
Nashville Silver Falchion Award. I was
Oh,
excited.
yeah.
And then I still had time, so I thought most people want to know about self-publishing, and they have this belief that it's easy and cheap.
Yep.
And it can be, but not if you do it right.
Not quality. Right.
Right. So you want quality. So one of the things that gives self-publishing a bad name, I think, is that there are so many people that just throw out the first thing they've written and they haven't paid for editing and they haven't, and they think it's okay, but it's not, it's not. So so I wrote that and it really is a step-by-step. And at the end, if you go through it and you follow every single step, you might say, I'm not up to this. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like, at least you've learned, like, you're not up to that. Because what I always tell people is if you want to get published, you have to first determine the kind of person that you are. So I am a very organized person. I'm very disciplined and I am a control freak. I don't like people telling me how to do things. One of the reasons I left the corporate world.
I was just going to say, yeah, that's finance.
Being told you have to work between 9 and 5. Why can't I work between 10 and 6? Like, what's the big deal? Right. So if you're that kind of person and you have a business head, which I have from my background, because it is a business, then self-publishing could be a really good option for you. But if you're the sort of person that needs a lot of hand-holding, you can't self-publish. Then you need to have a traditional publishing partner, somebody that's going to work with you, right? Or you could also go the hybrid route and say, I want to self-publish, but I don't want to do any of the work. So I'll pay someone to do it all, but then it'll still be mine. So there are different paths to go. And so I say to people, one path doesn't fit all. And just because you've tried one path, like as I did, I mean, I started off traditionally published. My books were picked up also by HarperCollins for their WWL mystery line for their little paperbacks. So I've got a big 5 contract,
Yeah.
and then I self-publish and I write blogs. The only thing I've never done is like a Wattpad or anything. I've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
And I've never hybrid. I've never paid somebody to do that because I just sort of think I can do it myself. So
Right. And you already have connections to
yeah,
kind of
so
reach
it's
out
different,
to.
right? But like I say, like it's okay to change lanes.
Mhm.
Like, I change lanes, and so it's okay. So if you're with a traditional publisher and you think I'd like to self-publish, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're self-publishing and you realize, it's not for me, it's okay to go and look for a publisher. Like, so
100%.
it's not like you make a decision and that's it, you're stuck for life. You're
Right.
not. You can make these different options. So all I tried to do with those books is sort of outline options for people. I don't give advice. I don't say do this or do that. I just say, this is what you need to do if you want to do this path. If that's in your wheelhouse, then this is something you could pursue. If you know that you're not good with taking direction, or whatever, then maybe, a traditional publisher is going to be that good of a fit for you, right? Because they're going to basically,
Tell you
one
what,
thing, they'll take, I mean, I know with WWL, you had no control over the covers,
yeah.
none, zero, right? And for me, that was hard because I was like, well, I wouldn't maybe put those colors or what, but they didn't even ask my opinion. It's just,
Wow.
this is the cover you're getting. Okay. So, again, like some people would love that. They'd be like, oh, thank goodness I don't
I
have
know
to worry
something I
about
don't have to
that.
think about.
Right.
But
So it's who you are. So as long as you accept who you are as an author, then you can find the correct path. So I think, I think those books, I mean, they're obviously niche, but I think they serve a really important purpose.
right.
And I think they're written in a really easy to understand language. They're not preachy, and they, really. I mean, I tell it the way it is,
Right.
and telling it as though I'm talking to the person when they're
Yeah.
reading. So it's not, and they just came out in audio. So woo-hoo.
Oh, so now you can listen to Judy tell you what to do.
Audible, they're on. Yeah, it's
I,
just Audible though. So that's if
uh,
you don't have Audible, then
I'm not a big audiobook person. I love it for people, but for some reason, I can't focus on the words, like, because
yeah.
mine goes like a million miles an hour all the time, just full of anxiety and worry and everything. So even if somebody's reading to me, I can't focus on it. So I'm like, I'll just read.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
I never used to listen to audio, but for a while we had our place near Toronto and then our camp up on Superior,
oh,
and that was about an 8.5 hour drive.
oof.
So, and there's only so much music on your thing
Yeah.
you can listen to. You've heard all the songs 5,000 times, and radio kept coming in and out. So I just thought, oh, I'll just try audio. And it really does depend on the narration is everything.
I was gonna say that's 100%.
Everything.
Right.
Like, I started listening, oh, I can't listen to that person for 7 or 8 hours. But like I have really liked it. And now we still have the camp on Superior and then the house in town. And that's about an hour's difference.
Okay.
So I'll listen then. So, I still read. I like reading a book, but I also do audio now. Yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
That's cool. I when you were talking in the beginning about kind of your journey to publication, it's funny because I did the same thing. I went to a conference as a mystery fan to the Malice Domestic in DC.
Yeah.
Really only because at the time I was living up here in Massachusetts. My dad lives in DC, and I was like, I need something to do with him while I'm home for the weekend, because like, what are we going to do? Just look at each other? Like, no. So let's go watch the mystery people. And I talked to a couple of people, and they're, the one question they ask is like, well, if you would write a mystery, what would you write? And that just started everything churning. And I'm like, I would like to write the mystery of my heart, which is baseball focused. So that was kind of my jumping in. And then that's the thing too, if I would have had your book in the beginning, it would have been great in 2017, because I was one of those people who knew nothing about anything. I didn't know what a small press was. I didn't know about Writers Beware. I didn't know about what was her name, Janet Reed, the agent shark. I didn't know about how to write a query. I didn't know any of that stuff, which again is why the Guppies is amazing, because I think I scrolled through every message on the Guppies site to learn how to do all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Reggie, but yeah, it's one of those things. I think if I were to go back, if 2017 came here this time of year, I would be like, I want a book like that where it says, oh, here's what a hybrid is. Here's what not to go into.
Here's what these things are.
Here's a vanity press. Don't do that. Like, here's traditional 5. And also, I think now it's more, I hate to use the word democratic, but reading and writing is so much more open than it was even 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
You had to get an agent, you had to go big 5, you had to or self-publish. And at that time it was there was
a stigma.
Exactly. My friend Dale Phillips, who also self-publishes, just says, I'm indie published. They don't need to know that it's me that's the indie publisher. It's my publishing, and I do all the work. So it's indie publishing. And I like that because it kind of breaks that stigma away for people. Again, I think of self-publishing as like the bad side, and that the people who do it right, it's indie publishing. So I love this era of writing because I go to events and you see all these authors that you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Absolutely. So when did you go to Malice? Because I've been there twice.
I went 20, well, this past year, what was it, 23, I think. I don't even know what year it is. I didn't go this year. I went last year, and then the first one I went to was 16, maybe.
So I would have been there.
We probably crossed paths. My dad was walking around with me.
I would have been, I believe I went, my first one there was 2016 because my debut came out 2015. I did BoucherCon in Raleigh, and then I did, so then I went to Malice the fall. Did I do 2016?
I think so. Years have drawn together for me. I don't even know where I'm at. I'm like, remember the pandemic was only 4 years ago, like the start of it. That seems like forever.
It was still at the old hotel when I went. I know that. Like now they're in a different hotel. So it was still at the old hotel when I went. I went 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And I can track it by saying both years Obama was in power. So whatever that means, as far as like, and I gotta admit, I'm Canadian, so I felt Canadian stuff more, but I do remember that.
To the rest of us, like fighting the good fight over here, like, oh, we're just so tired.
But I do remember because I was like the complete tourist, right? The first year, the second time I wasn't, but the first, I took the subway and I went to the White House, and I did all the, the things, and I went to the Naval Yard, and I did everything. Like, I mean, I just crammed all the stuff in because
did you go to the U.S. Naval Museum on the Naval?
Yeah, I did my
internship there.
Oh,
for my master's. I got my master's in arts management, and at the time I was working. I worked for the Navy, so I was at the Navy, and I'm like, I can't do an internship and my full-time job. But they're like, oh, you can do like 3 hours after work at 3 o'clock. And I was like, that's perfect. I'll do it. And my dad was Navy, so like it fit. I was able to do it. So yeah, that was my favorite. That's one of my favorite places. I love that museum.
I'd never been to Washington, and I thought one thing about when I do a conference, I always spend a couple of days before and after, so I treat it like a little vacation as well, right? And I thought, well, I really want to see stuff. Then when I went the following year, I still saw a couple of things I hadn't seen. Like I went to some of the Smithsonian museums, that sort of thing. But the first year is when I really crammed everything because I didn't know if I'd ever be back. Right?
Well, you should.
One thing that struck me about the White House,
it's small.
It was smaller than I expected. I don't know, it looks so massive on TV.
It really does.
And then when you see it really, you're like, oh, it's not so big.
It's like a McMansion in the suburbs. Like, I don't know.
Sort of, right? So it's like, oh, it's not so big as I thought it would be.
Well,
but it's a beautiful city. I mean, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful city.
To Malice
and it's sort of like cherry blossom time and stuff there, right? So it's when Malice is on. So it's such a beautiful city. And I love the fact that I could get off the airplane and get on a subway and get there, and I could do it for like $5 instead of 70 or whatever, some crazy amount. And again, I'm from Toronto. I'm not nervous about subways and stuff like that, right? So yeah, I mean, I had to change a line, but it was pretty simple, really.
Well, come to Malice next year and you can go to the zoo and there'll be pandas at the Washington Zoo next year.
Okay.
They're premiering in January.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah. So I lived in DC for 6 years and I was there when they premiered the pandas and I lost my ever loving mind. For some reason, it's just so exciting. And then the last panda we had when he was born, he was the size of a butter stick and they didn't name him. So everybody called him Butterstick. And I was like, that's so cute. I want Anyway, but you should come next year because I'll be down there next year.
I've been talking to Harriet about it, Harriet Sutler, and saying I might come. I'll see. I mean, the problem is traveling from Canada. It's expensive, and our dollar right now is only worth 70 cents to the US dollar. So that's significant.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe after November things will get better. After the election,
our dollar has been faltering for many years, and I mean, I'm not a financial person, but a lot of it has to do with commodities and in the price of gas and oil and all this kind of stuff I don't understand and even don't want to understand. But I know that for me, if the room is $100, it's $130 for me, right? So if the conference is $200, then it's $260 for me. So it's a lot, right? When you look at that, and then like we're very highly taxed here, so our flights are very expensive. So there's a lot. Like even if I was to get a flight on points, which I have done in the past, you're still paying about $200 in taxes. Like Canada has apparently a lot of free things, but we pay through the nose
for it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
You're always paying one way or another.
Well, next year, because this year it's right around the corner, is the New England Crime Bake. I don't know if you know about us.
Oh yeah, no, I used to work for Liberty Mutual, and I was in Boston many times in my corporate days.
I'm the committee girl. I'm the social media person for the Crime Bake. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm also the person that sits at the front desk for all 3 days, just chitty chatting, because apparently I like to yap, which is why I started the podcast, because I just want to talk to you. Oh, there's a squirrel on the deck. That's going to lose some cat's minds here in a minute. But we do have about 6 minutes left. So I want to make sure, do you have any book recommendations other than your own, which I'm like Finding Your Path to Publication? I am going to highly tout it because I do think it's important for baby authors to read and kind of learn about the world out there in publishing. But any other books that you recommend?
I did make some notes here. So I do. So I've got a few different examples. So when I served on the board of directors at Crime Writers of Canada, initially the chair at that time was Mike Martin. He's written, I think it's 17 books in his series now, if not 17, 16. It's called the Sergeant Windflower series, and the books are set in Newfoundland. So that's really cool because you really, like, Mike now lives in Ontario, in Ottawa, which is our capital, but he's from Newfoundland originally. So you really feel as though you've been to Newfoundland. It's really kind of cool. So I recommend his books, and start at the beginning. And there are several of them are on audio. They're not all, but several are. Now, also who I served with was Winona Kent. She writes the Jason Davey mystery series. He's a professional musician and he's an amateur sleuth, and they take place in London, England. She's from British Columbia, but she writes the series set. So that's kind of fun. And again, these are series, and they're both, like Mike's are very cozy. Winona's are not quite as cozy, but they're definitely, that lane. Then I have a friend, Karen Gross, Grose. She just released a book called Flat Out Lies, and it's a very twisty, dark suspense. So if you like twisty, dark suspense, then you'll like Flat Out Lies, because it's definitely that. And like at the end, I was kind of like, what? And then people that I don't know personally is I love Peter May's Lewis trilogy, and he's actually just introduced a 4th book into the trilogy, so it's no longer a trilogy. They take place like over in the Scottish Hebrides, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I love his writing. I just think he's brilliant. And so if you like that sort of darker sort of mystery, that's is set in a different place. I love reading about other areas.
Same.
You can't go wrong with Peter May. And last, but no, two more. Frida McFadden, I discovered on audio. Big fan. Talk about twisty, but if you are like audiobooks, her narrators are always solid. So she's great. And then last but not least, Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead was amazing. Like I think it won the Pulitzer. Is amazing.
Okay.
So those would be my, so those are really diverse recommendations.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, you can sort of depends what your lane is, but you wouldn't go wrong with any of those authors or any of those books.
Yeah,
so
I've heard a lot about the Barbara Kingsolver one, and I just haven't picked it up yet. But the more I hear about it, the more everybody seems to like it. So
it's really, I mean, she's a fine writer anyway. You know, like I also recently discovered Anne Patchett, and so I've read The Dutch House. And there's one other one I can't remember Tom Lake. And both of those are spectacular. So, you know, like I read a lot of different types of stuff, but they all tend to have a bit of a mystery element to them, even if it's not really a like I wouldn't say Barbara Kingsolver's book is a mystery, but there's definitely a mystery running through it, right? So yeah, that would be that. And then as far as baseball, I hate to say it, but my Blue Jays finished dead last, and I think they will again next year because they never change anything.
As a Red Sox fan, thank you, because that last series saved us from being dead last. So we'll compete for last together. I enjoy the Blue Jays as like a secondary team. In the AL East. I don't like the Yankees, and I don't like the Orioles, and I don't like Tampa Bay. So, although the Orioles are fun, but whatever. No, I appreciate that you guys fell on your sword this year since we finished.
We did, and trust me, they're not changing anything. So we're gonna be in the same mess.
And as of right now, the Red Sox haven't changed anything. So I'll see you in the basement next year.
Yeah, okay.
Basically,
we can commiserate together.
Yeah, right. Oh, just crying. But where can people find you? Are you at any events or just on your website, or how?
So I have a website, judypenzsheluk.com, with a blog. And most Saturdays I'll introduce you to a different author. And you're certainly welcome to come on. So, you know, just shoot me an email. I'll send you the form. So I think Karen's book is out on there today. So I try to do that, try to help other authors. And then, you know, I'm in the usual Amazon, Kobo, Nook, you know, all the usual suspects. You can find me. And I am hoping to go to Malice next year or Killer Nashville. So one of the two, possibly both if I'm feeling flush with cash and the dollar. Right? It's a little stronger.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you so much. This is great to finally meet you like in person and not just on the Guppy page or on Facebook.
The Guppy's great though.
And yeah, so thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
See, Judy, awesome. Love her. Big fan. I can't wait I've written down all of her book recommendations. I can't wait to start some of those because they sound super interesting. This is going to be a crazy week because I have a bunch of podcast interviews scheduled in the next couple weeks. Don't know if I'm going to release 2 at a time or once a week. So just pay attention. Tomorrow's interview, which I'm super excited about, is, for those that know, Fern's grandmother, Donna Ray Menard. She is fantastic. So she's going to be my interview tomorrow. Upcoming, I have people like Jenny Adams. Excuse me. And the Bobblehead George team, which I'm very excited about. Those guys are fun. But again, let's do some book recs, huh? Or what I'm reading. So one of the things, Abington apparently has a very thriving author community, and I'm very excited about this. One is a local boy, Michael Carini. So I'm reading his Tyler Madison first book, The Secret of Washington's Treasure. It's like National Treasure, but with like a teenager. So that's pretty fun. He's done a couple events here in Abington and also at the Barnes & Noble in Hingham. So check him out. He's also part of the Blackbeard Treasures people who do a lot of estate sales, yard sales. They always have a cool bunch of stuff, so I always get to see him and make sure I shout him out. I'm going to email him to get him on the podcast because that'll be really cool. The other book I'm reading, I know you're like, Nicole, you're a mystery author. Why are you just not showing me any mysteries? Well, it's because I am very eclectic in my reading. So right now, the book I'm currently reading, this is my bathtub read / purse read, is L.M. Saga's Cascade Failure, an Ambit's Run novel. Sci-fi, heist, space, found family, kind of doodad. So far, so good. I know, look at that. I'm on chapter 7. I'm so far good. Today's going to be a good reading day on the couch after I have to do some yard work. But then once that happens, we're going to be on the couch watching football and reading books. I'm enjoying it so far. I think the second one might have just come out. So I want to blow through this so I can get the next one. I'm so excited because tomorrow, Lindy Stevens and Bruce Robert Coffin's third book in the Mosley Files, I think it's, very Clive Cussler adventure. It's coming out tomorrow. It's coming into my mailbox tomorrow. I'm very excited. Also, Jennifer Estep's latest, I don't know what the series is called, but you'll see those on another podcast. I'll be talking about them. In regards to events coming up, if you're listening to this on the October 20th weekend, head of the Charles weekend, I will be at the Whitman Mothers Club on Monday night with good friend Julie Bennett Hutchins, who writes pretty scary books. We're going to I don't know, we're going to wing it. We're going to see what happens. That should be fun. Also, a week from today, October 26th, I will be at the Abington Senior Center for the Abington Community Fair. I've talked about it before. It's one of my favorites. I always end up, I don't think I'm next to my usual table mate who makes a lot of like koozies for drinks, the microwave bowls, bags, everything. So I'm going to shout out her as soon as I see her. But yeah, I'll have both 1 and 2 for sale with little gift bags and lots of swag to give out. So come visit me and see me there. I don't think I have the Crime Bakes in November, so I'll be at the Crime Bake selling and also working registration. So if you're an author who wants to come, just reach out and I'll let you know all the details. That's over Veterans Day weekend in Dedham. And then we're just going to see what happens. But I also got one of my first orders off the website this week, and that was exciting. So that person, Chrissy's, getting some books shipped to her down in Middleborough. So if you want to order signed books with a little extra swag, just give me a call. Don't give me a call. I don't answer my phone. I'm a millennial. Just reach out through my website or order directly from my website, and I will get those out to you within a day. Other than that, that's all that's going on. Still waiting to hear more on book 3. The cover document is with them, so I think the cover is currently being worked. I'm still hoping for a February release. Once I learn more, guess who's going to be the first to know? My followers on Twitter and Facebook, but then you. Yes, you will be the next to know. Until then, you can find me on all the socials, NicoleAslanWriter.com. You can watch my very bad geriatric millennial TikToks on NicoleAslan38. Not because of Kurt Schilling, but because I started it when I was 38 and I am now 42, so that's crazy. But otherwise, guys, happy reading. And as always, even though they're not around, go Red Sox.